All right, welcome everyone once again. My name is Ana Navarrete. I am the program director of the UndocuSpartan Student Resource Center, and we're really excited to have you all here virtually. And so this year, we're trying to come back to normal, but we're still trying to also be mindful that there are folks that are still susceptible to the virus, and so we want to make sure that we're keeping folks safe. But we are currently here on campus. We have been open since the start of last semester with limited capacity for in-person activities. But for the most part, we're available for students, whether it's in person or online, and we're available in different formats. So we'll talk a little bit about different ways that you can connect with all of us throughout the summer, throughout the spring, and up until your first day of your first semester here. So before I begin, I do want to welcome a couple of my student staff who are here with us today. And I'm going to ask them if they can please introduce themselves. You can share your title in the center and your year and maybe anything you would like to share with your audience.
So hello everyone, my name is Eliana. I'm the community advocacy lead here at the UndocuSpartan Student Resource Center. I'm a second year, so this is my first year actually being on campus. And yes, I'm also, some of the other things that I'm involved with are associated students. I'm also an active member of Hermanex, and I also am an EOP student as well. So if you guys have any questions about any of those resources, feel free to ask me. Because I'm very involved with all of those programs here at SJSU.
Hey, my name is Alexis. I'm in my last semester at San Jose State University, and my position here at the center is graphic designer, and I am looking to do my master's here at San Jose State as well. And some of the clubs I enjoy here at the school are like the game development club, and yeah, thank you.
All right. Sorry about the technical difficulties. All right, so who are UndocuSpartan? So you've heard us say this, use this term, interchangeably with undocumented. So when we talk about who UndocuSpartans are, we're talking about our SJSU students who are undocumented. And as many of you know, our undocumented student population is extremely diverse. They are diverse in identities, diverse in nationalities, languages that they speak. Usually one of the stereotypes that we get is that all undocumented students are Latinx, or they're Mexican or Central American, or all undocumented students qualify for DACA. And so we want to be intentional to recognize that our student body is very, very diverse. And so, we want to recognize the differences in our communities, but also just celebrate the fact that as undocumented people, we have a lot to offer. And so we'll talk a little bit about what are some of the services and the resources that we offer here at our campus. So before we begin, I want to highlight a few terms before we dive into this conversation. And the reason why is because oftentimes we use a lot of these terms related to being undocumented very interchangeably. Oftentimes these terms are tied into policies that are very specific at the state or federal level. So I just want to go through them really quick, just so we can clarify and be on the same page as we dive into this information. One of the first terms you're going to hear me say or use interchangeably with undocumented is AB 540. So AB 540 is a state law that is here in California that allows qualifying undocumented students to qualify for in-state tuition. A lot of you, especially if you're coming from the community college, you may have been aware of this policy before. We also have AB 2000 and SB 68, which has expanded AB 540. And so when you hear me say AB 540, just know I'm referring more than likely to undocumented students that qualify for this policy. And I'm also referring to students who may qualify for AB 2000 or SB 68. California non-resident tuition exemption form is the form that is tied into AB 540. And so in order to demonstrate eligibility for AB 540, you have to file the California non-resident tuition exemption. So you're going to be hearing me use this term a lot throughout this presentation. Another term to be familiar with is California DREAM Act application. So this is not the same as a federal DREAM Act. This is not the same as DACA. So California DREAM Act application is a state financial aid packet that is open to students who qualify for AB 540. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So just note that when we talk about California DREAM Act application or California DREAM Act, we're talking specifically about the financial aid program in the state of California. The other term is DACA. So many of you may be familiar with this. You've heard about this term a lot. So a lot of students say, hey, I'm documented or I applied to DACA, but I didn't get my financial aid. So again, DACA is a federal program. It does not grant legal status, but it does open up a lot of opportunities, not just for work employment, but also to get deferment from deportation. There's also TPS holders, so you might hear me say DACA and TPS holders, simply because both of these programs offer work permits and allows our student population who qualifies for these to be able to receive a work permit. All right. Please feel free to drop any questions in the chat if you have any questions or you'd like for me to clarify anything. All right. All right, so here are some additional terms. I won't go into this, but I will leave it here and you'll have access to this presentation so you can go back to this information. All right, so I'll go ahead and pass it over to Eliana, who will tell you all a little bit about our center and go over today's presentation agenda.
Hello again, everyone. The UndocuSpartan Student Resource Center offers multiple services. It is more than just like an academic advising center. We offer like one-on-one personal and academic support, and that looks different for every person, because oftentimes when students interact with our office, they have very unique cases to themselves. And so some things that we've had to refer students to are like our ILD, which is a free immigration legal support services for students and their direct family. So not only do we support our undocumented community and undocumented students here at sjsu, we also support mixed status families. So if you or anyone you know that's an immediate family member that would benefit from any of our services, they can also use them as well. So it's more than just the student, and there's also their immediate family as well. We offer DACA fee assistance and also workshops and resources that speak to the undocumented student experience. Some of those things would be like academic and educational opportunities. Oftentimes we advertise different internships or fellowships that are available to our undocumented students. We also have wellness and community building activities, immigration, intersectional identity, different like workshops that pertain to that. I've noticed that like we advertise that oftentimes on our social medias. We also have immigration policy updates. So if you guys interact with any of our social media, you'll notice that we use Instagram lives really often. And so oftentimes like you'll see an immigration policy update through our social media. And then we also advertise different financial aid and scholarships as well. And then another upcoming opportunity for our incoming students would be our UndocuSpartan Summer Academy coming this summer 2022.
Thank you. And again, like there are a couple places that you can follow us on social media to learn more information about events that we're putting together, and just stay up to date with the resources that we also have to offer. All right. Do you want to walk us through the agenda today, Eliana?
Yes. So like Anna had previously mentioned, there's going to be a lot of information given to you during this presentation, but we are going to be sending out the slides. So feel free to take notes, but also know that this information will be available to you later if you would prefer to just listen and kind of see what we have to say. But some of the things that are going to be talked about in today's presentation are privacy and information sharing. We're going to dive a little bit into what FERPA is and what that entails for our students here who interact with our center, different ways to generate income and making college affordable, how to establish in-state tuition, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how students qualify for AB 540, SB 68, AB 2000. We're also going to be talking about financial aid and paying for college, developing a budget plan, the different resources on our campus other than just the USRC. And I believe Anna's going to talk a little bit more about the UndocuSpartan Summer Academy as well.
All right, thank you so much, Eliana. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I want to first start talking about privacy because one of the big concerns for a lot of our students, right, as you're coming in is like, who's going to get this information, right? Especially as you're now disclosing your immigration status for tuition purposes, you know, to figure out what kind of resources you get access to. We want to make sure that you are aware of what your rights are to your privacy. So to start off with, we have FERPA, or the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So under FERPA, all of your information as a student, your student records is protected, right? So unless we have written permission from you, we cannot disclose or give consent to disclosure of any personally identifiable information that's contained in your student records. The only information that we release and that's public is dates of enrollment and degree earned. Right. And so you can also go into your portal and even limit even further what type of data or information the offices can release. But just know that under FERPA, your information is protected. Even your family members are not able to ask about your grades or if you're attending classes. All of that can only be done with your written permission and your written consent. And so if you have questions, we have some links on here that you can visit to learn a little bit more about FERPA. Additionally, there are two laws in California that speak specific to undocumented students, especially those who may be concerned about physical safety. So in California, we have the California Values Act, which would detangle state and local law enforcement agencies, as well as school police and security departments from federal immigration authorities. Our campus takes a very firm stand of not collaborating with ICE or not participating in any of that. And then on top of that, you have AB 21, which really informs the CSU system on ways to guard personal information of immigrant communities, especially those who are undocumented. And so again, we have laws in the state of California and at the federal level that protect you and your privacy. And again, this is for you all to know and be informed about, because I want to make sure that you all feel comfortable that your information is protected. So I want to start off with talking about how to make college affordable. There's a lot of questions about, can I go to college if I'm undocumented? And the question is, yes. In the state of California, there are no laws that says you can't go to college if you're undocumented. Now, there are state laws that determine whether or not you would qualify for in-state tuition. So that is something that we look at a lot. So when we're talking about making college affordable, the first step for all of you is, how can I qualify for in-state tuition? So on our campus for undocumented students, there are two pathways. There's the AB 540 pathway, or AB 2000 and SB 68, which is the non-resident tuition exemption. In order to qualify, US citizens qualify, permanent residents, undocumented students, whether you have DACA or not, or whether or not you have a T or U visa. For students who qualify for the non-resident tuition exemption form, it's important to note that if you're undocumented and you qualify for AB 540, you can also qualify for financial aid. And I'll go a little bit more into that in a few slides from now. The second pathway is through California residency. And I'll explain a little bit the difference between both AB 540 and California residency. So California residency essentially establishes that you've been here in California with legal status for 1 year and 1 day. I usually recommend this route for folks who don't qualify for AB 540, but may have some sort of a legal status like DACA or TPS, or any other type of work permit that has granted you permit to be here in the country. There is a California residency route, which you just essentially have to demonstrate that you lived in California for 1 year and 1 day with a legal status. Unfortunately, undocumented students that qualify for California residency won't qualify for financial aid. And I'll dive a little bit more into it in a bit. But these are the two main pathways, the non-resident tuition exemption and California residence. This one is going to be the non-resident tuition exemption is going to be the portion I'm going to focus on the most. So what do you need to qualify for the California non-resident tuition? So as I shared, there's two pathways. The non-resident tuition exemption form, or AB 540, is a one pathway I recommend if you are undocumented and you can qualify for this pathway to go down this path, because again, it'll open up more opportunities. So in order to qualify for AB 540, you have to have had 3 years of full-time attendance at a California high school and have graduated with a California diploma or equivalent. Students can also use a 3-year equivalent at elementary and secondary school with a combination of 3 years equivalent of California high school. And the third option, which really speaks more to SB 68, which is attending or attaining credits at a California high school, adult school, community college, or a combination of these schools for 3 years or more. So there are specific requirements that you have to fulfill and demonstrate that you fulfill them by simply showing that you've lived in California long enough and studied here long enough to be able to demonstrate in-state tuition eligibility. Of course, you also have to have graduated from a California high school or completed any of these 3 options here. So if you have questions about whether or not you meet this requirement, there are resources for you to get more help with that process. So first, some things to note is that you will need to submit your official transcripts when you submit the California non-resident tuition exemption. If you are a transfer student and you qualify for AB 540 when you were in your community college, you still have to submit a new one. If you did not get an email from the admissions office letting you know you have to submit a new California non-resident tuition exemption form, just go ahead and submit the tuition exemption form regardless. And here are some addresses where you can that you can follow to submit the appropriate paperwork, right? So for example, if you are a transfer student and you are trying to demonstrate that you meet AB 540, not only do you have to submit your community college transcripts, but you're also going to have to submit your high school transcripts, right? So you're going to have to reach out to your old high school and make sure that they send that information over to eTranscript@sjsu.edu. For students who are coming in as first-time freshmen, your high school is supposed to do this automatically, so consult with them and make sure that they also submit it over to eTranscript@sjsu.edu. The office that oversees the non-resident tuition process is the office of the registrar. And so if you need to submit transcripts, any like additional transcripts, whether it's unofficial or not, along with the form to the non-resident tuition exemption form, you would submit it to record-regis@sjsu.edu, or you can email Sophie Lon or sophie.lon@sjsu.edu directly as well. And so all of this information is on our webpage, and you can also check out these links once you have these slides. I do want to share that this is the form that you will have to submit. This is what it looks like. This is the front end of the application itself, and this is the back end of the application. The front end, you do have to fill it out, correctly. And so if you have any issues filling it out or don't know, okay, what box do I click, or what applies to me, please feel free to reach out and we can help you fill out the application. The back part, you just have to include all the information of all the schools that you've attended that you're trying to use to demonstrate that you meet the AB 540 eligibility. So make sure that you have access to your transcripts to put down all the information of the schools that you've attended. Again, if you have any questions or are stuck on this process, please feel free to reach out to us and we can help you out with this form. So I won't spend too much time on this. I know I talked a little bit about the difference between a non-resident tuition exemption form and California residency. For California residency, again, like if you qualify for AB 540, just go through that route. But there is an additional way that folks can qualify for in-state tuition if they don't qualify for AB 540, but may have some sort of status like DACA or TPS. And let me pause it real quick. Are there any questions? All right. Give me a quick second. I have to pause record real quick. All right. All right, so that is the difference between California residency and non-resident tuition exemption. So the question is, if you are concerned about not qualifying, or if you submitted your application but you got denied, there's still a process for you to appeal. So the moment that you get denied, you do have 30 calendar days to submit that appeal. And usually in the appeal, we have to argue why it is that the university or campus didn't apply the law correctly. And so this is where we will make our arguments. And so if you ever are in the situation where you have to appeal, please feel free to reach out to us. I myself work closely with students who have to go through the appeal process to come up with a plan and make sure that when we do appeal, that we can have a successful application. You do have one opportunity to apply for AB 540, your first semester, but if you do get denied and even your appeal gets denied, there could always be future opportunities for you to request AB 540 eligibility, but we can have that discussion when we get there, if we get there. The idea is that we can try to get this figured out before your first semester here at SJSU. Okay, so aside from what do I need to do to make school affordable and making, being eligible for in-state tuition? We also have to figure out, once you qualify for in-state tuition, how do you pay for college? Or even if you don't qualify for in-state tuition, what are the resources that exist? So in this graph, we try to kind of like paint a picture of what type of aid you can qualify based on your residency classification would also determine what kind of aid you may have access to. So for example, let's start off with California resident here on the furthest right. So as a California resident, if you're undocumented and you qualify for California resident, you will not be able to qualify for state and university aid, unfortunately, because again, California DREAM Act is tied into AB 540 and not California residency. School scholarships, you may be eligible because many school scholarships are only based on your academic standing, your major, your career interests, etc. So it may have nothing to do with California residency or work eligibility. So there's definitely school scholarships that you can apply for. External scholarships. So there's many external scholarships outside of San Jose State that are open to students that don't require a social security number. And so I'll go through some of those resources later on in a couple of slides from now. But again, AB 540, if you look at this one, qualifies you for the most type of aid, including state and university aid. For those who don't qualify for AB 540 or California residency and are paying the non-in-state tuition or out-of-state tuition, and again, this is not international, it's just completely different from international. International students would be students who have an F1 visa, right? Like a student visa. So non-in-state students would unfortunately not qualify for state and university aid. There might be some scholarships tied into your academics and your standing as a student. So those are still options. And again, external scholarships, there are many out there that don't require a social security number. So if you haven't heard of the California DREAM Act, and this is the first time you hear about it, I really hope that right after this presentation, you go into your to the California Student Aid Commission website and apply as soon as possible. So for undocumented students that qualify for AB 540, AB 2000, or SB 68, whether or not you have DACA or TPS, students who qualify for California DREAM Act can also qualify for what could be the Cal Grant, State University Grant, EOP Grant, and other scholarships, including the California Dream Loan, which is a loan that's offered to a limited number of students. And I don't have it on here in this page, but there's also the California Dream Service Incentive Grant, which is a grant that's awarded to students who have a Cal Grant B and who are thinking of doing community service and would like to get funds for doing that service. We have that information on our website, so I'll drop the link so you can watch the video and learn more about some of these programs. But through the California DREAM Act, students have access to several financial aid opportunities. There is a priority deadline of March 2nd. This year, it was extended to April 1st. But if you miss the deadline for the priority deadline, you can still apply. The priority deadline only means that they're going to consider you for the Cal grants, but there's still state university grants, which is a different pot of money that the California DREAM Act taps into if you don't qualify for the Cal grant. And so it's still really, really important to submit your California DREAM Act, whether you're an undergraduate, a graduate student, because you never know what you can qualify for. So make sure that you apply. And again, here's a website at the bottom. It's dream.csac.ca.gov. So make sure that you apply and submit your application. So for those of you who have applied and you're wondering, where's my financial aid? I haven't seen it. So keep in mind, because of the priority deadline being pushed back to April 1st, you might already have heard about your award. You might have not. And if you haven't, I would say just be a little more patient. Typically around this time, we hope that you all can have an idea of how much aid you're going to get for the year. But for sure, you will know by the time of your orientation. If you do have questions or want to talk to a financial aid advisor, there is our financial aid website that you can reach out to the online advising folks, and I'll walk you through the website in a bit. But just note that right now there was a pushback with the California Dream Act, and hopefully by now that some of you are hearing or starting to hear from financial aid. If not, just give it a couple of weeks. Okay, so here are some reasons why someone might not have heard about their financial aid or not have received an offer. And so just be mindful. If you go to your California Dream Act portal, you'll be able to see if you have any red notifications. So they're usually colored in red. So that would be kind of like what signifies that there's incorrect information in the application. So you want to make sure that that is correct and that is updated to ensure that our campus receives this application and that it doesn't get stuck at the California Student Aid Commission level because of errors related to the application itself, or because, again, it's not connecting to our campus. So here are some examples. And again, we have some resources on our website that you can follow and get more information on this. Okay, so now let's talk about, okay, once you have in-state tuition, once you have financial aid, well, then what, right? Like, how can I make sure that I actually qualify, can make this affordable? So right here in this slide, what you're looking at is 2 examples of a typical financial aid packet for someone with a California Dream Act. And this is typically a student that has an estimated family contribution of $0, otherwise known as EFC. And EFCs are calculated based on your income, on your reported income, right? How much money, are you reporting in each year? If your income has changed significantly from 2020, where maybe you're making less, you can always request financial aid to reassess your financial aid for the 2021 year instead of 2020 based on that change of income. But for the most part, if you are a 0 EFC, this is typically what a financial aid packet will look like. So I'm going to focus here. Let's focus on example 2, because I feel like example 2 is the most relevant to what some of you might see. So typically for financial aid, a 0 EFC student will, by average, receive $5,742 in grants. So that can be the Cal grant, that can be the State University grant. You see right here, example 2, this $5,742. Over here, that $5,742 is covered by the state grant. So again, it all depends on the pocket of money. The amount tends to be the same, $5,742, which is broken down into 2 semesters. So you're not going to get all of it up front. You're going to be getting this in half, right? So the first half, you're going to get it for the fall. The second half, you'll get it for the spring. Example 1, the reason that you see that this student has more money is because they're not only just coming in with the State University grant of that $5,742, but they also have the Cal Grant B, right? Which is a grant only a certain amount of students obtain as long as you meet the requirements and apply by the priority deadline. This student also brought in scholarship money, which is what you see over here. So, depending on how much aid you're coming in, your total aid will change. But typically, if you don't have any other formal aid and you're getting the bare minimum, the minimum maximum, as I like to think about it, of $5,742, then more than likely you're going to be facing a financial gap. Kind of breaking down these numbers in terms of how that translates in terms of your tuition, right? And how much you have to pay. So this is why it's so critical to to qualify for in-state tuition. So to be a full-time student, meaning that you're taking more than 6.1 units, it costs about $7,852 per academic year, right? And so you're only going to pay half of this amount each semester. But for the full academic year, $7,852. Now, if you're paying that out-of-state fee because you don't qualify for in-state tuition, say that you're taking 6 units, right? Those 6 units, those will be given that $396 out-of-state fee in addition to the part-time fee, right? Because the student is taking less than 6 units. And so it's a huge difference. And let me break it down even further. So for example, for the academic year, right? If you're coming in with a California Dream Act packet of $5,742 for the full academic year, and your tuition and fees for that full academic year is $7,852, then your financial gap is going to be around $2,000, right? Per semester, what that translates is $1,000 roughly that you will have to come up with out of pocket. So that can either be personal savings, scholarships, or any other resources. So again, this is based on someone who is a 0 EFC and is getting the maximum minimum. And the financial gap can be reduced by applying for scholarships or applying for other forms of funding. Okay, I'll go ahead. I hope this information is useful for all of you and that it's a practical in helping you make that decision as to whether or not SJSU would be the campus for you, and if it's affordable to be able to pay for all of this. And so in order to cover the cost of tuition and fees or the cost of being a student, there are resources on campus that you can tap into to help you cut back on those costs. Especially if you have emergency. So for example, like if you have an emergency, we do have the Spartan Food Pantry, SJSU Cares, which can provide up to $1,500 in emergency costs for basic needs, such as rent, medical expenses. If you have bills that are coming up and you're trying to prioritize your funds towards your tuition and fees. There are reasons where, places here on campus that you can go to receive emergency aid. AES, or General Student Service, or Associated Students, offers, the affordable textbook program. So you can, if you qualify for the California Dream Act, you could qualify for the textbook program. And it's a first come, first serve basis. So you got to be on top of the textbook program and, just follow the social media to know when it's released. Also, there are programs on campus that offer grant opportunities, and this is just one of so many. And this, for example, Aspire, which is a first-gen program to help students navigate just being at college as a first-generation student. And so definitely check out the resource, but there's so many other opportunities to also pay for your tuition. So at San Jose State, we do have internal scholarships. So there's one application for all internal scholarships at SJSU. So this is what the portal looks like. There are scholarships that are specifically reserved to students who are undocumented, with or without a social security number, with or without AB 540, especially even for students who are incoming. So even if you're not registered right now, there might be some scholarships available for students that are incoming. Additionally, on our website, we do have our financial aid resources page. And so here you will find our scholarship resources, which includes that link to the campus. Here you will also find like the list of all of the internal scholarship SJSU has to offer. So there's some really great resources on here that you can check out. Additionally, we do have some listservs here, and we're going to be updating this section pretty soon. But for the most part, a lot of these lists right here are open to students who are undocumented. For example, Immigrants Rising, they're about to update this page. These are from 2021, but they're about to update it pretty soon with scholarships, internships, and fellowships that are open to undocumented students. And for those of you who may not be familiar with fellowships and internships, oftentimes we get the question of, can I work if I'm undocumented? And the question is, yes, you could potentially work, and I wouldn't call it work. So there are paid opportunities that are open to undocumented students that don't require work authorization, such as fellowships or internships. And so it's really important to apply for these opportunities year round. because oftentimes these opportunities are for a limited time. And so they're not long-term. And so ensure that you are reaching out to the, you're getting connected to resources and also getting plugged in as to where to find these opportunities. But there are ways that you can cover for your cost of tuition and fees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Eliana, who will tell you a little bit about how to reach us and some of those handles where you can follow us.
Yes, for sure. So as you guys can see, our phone number is 408-924-2762, but all of us at the USRC have direct emails that you can reach us at also. If you go to our website, which is right there in that QR code, if you guys want to take your phones out, all of us have our information right there on the contact us landing page. But yeah, so like that's our phone number, that's our general email, which all of us have access to as well. We're located in Clark Hall, which is right in front of EOP. So if you come through the 2 sliding glass doors, it's the first room to the left. And then we are here in the office Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's the same for Friday as well. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And the majority of our social medias is just UndocuSpartans. There is a rare occasion where it would be like UndocuSpartan without the S, but that's our handle. So if you guys are on any social media platform, you'll most likely find us at that. So that's how you can contact us. If you, like I said, if you were to go to the website and look at all the different student assistants, you can kind of see what all of our roles are. So if you're looking for something in particular, then feel free to reach out to us and whatever it is that our specialty is. Like we have a legal services lead. If you're looking to get connected with an immigration attorney, and then we also have like a social media outreach lead, which like if you guys have anything in concerns with like our social media, then you can also reach out to her as well. So that's like but the best way to contact us would probably be to call us or to email us.
Right here, you have like a brief description of the several offices that are on campus that you more than likely will be interacting between now and the time that you start your first semester here at SJSU. So please feel free to reach out to any of us at any point for whatever reason. If you have questions, again, like you can reach out to us. And comments, Eliana or Alexis?
My biggest advice would probably be to definitely follow our social media, because as I previously mentioned, a lot of the students who do interact with our office have very unique cases. So don't ever hesitate to come to our office because you feel like we might not be able to help you with whatever issue that you're facing. Oftentimes we find a way to guide you to get that issue resolved. So just interact with our office, come with us with whatever concerns that you might have, and we can work together to try to get that resolved. So even if we didn't mention a service that you would benefit from, we're more than likely knowledgeable about the services that you could use to benefit from like the different resources here we have on campus. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Liana.